Be agreed to. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Tuatahi tēnei mihi ana ki a koutou ngā iwi ngā pau o te rohe o Tamaki Makaurau. Nā koutou te kaha hei whakakotahi I raro I te maru o te kāhui o Tamaki Makaurau kia haria mai tēnei kaupapa I mui te araro o te kāwanatanga ara te parimata. No reira nei te mihi mai o haki a koutou katoa, tēnā koutou, e te minita, tēnā koe mō tēnei wāhanga ki a mātou. It gives Labour great pleasure to be able to support the third reading of the Tamaki Makaurau Collective Redress Bill. I want to acknowledge each of the 13 iwi that have come together under this particular settlement in what is an innovative example of what is possible. And might I say it may have had its challenges, but to get to this point, it could well be an example that other iwi and other towns might look to in terms of how to bring some common interests together. I want to acknowledge the Mayor of Auckland City, Len Brown, your leadership to steward through the statutory board and a way in which Māori can imprint and have a voice in such a huge city is significant and shouldn't be understated. I do want to acknowledge that this is a really a time of innovation and a time for change. We're in the period of matariki. It's the beginning of things and the end of things. It's an opportunity to think about the way in which our great city might grow and thrive so that the iconic features that are in the City of Auckland can be celebrated, so that the history of Auckland can be better understood by those who live there, but certainly to tourists who visit Auckland City, and also provide a window about how to do things differently. It frustrates the heck out of me when I hear, for example, discussions around the Resource Management Act and such negative comments around the way in which Māori concerns are taken in account of. It's not unreasonable when developers want to do things in Auckland City to get technical reports, geotechnical reports, but if you want to seek reports about how this particular development might impact on Māori heritage and values, it's juxtaposed in such a negative space, and I think that time needs to pass. We need to move through it. So what's happening with the Tamaki Collective Redress Bill, the Māori Statutory Board, the types of changes in Auckland City itself provide obvious tensions, but will provide, I think, helpful learning points about how we as a nation can go forward, taking into account the aspirations of Māori who want to contribute to the aspirations of New Zealand. So I hadn't intended on taking too long a call on this third reading speech, except to say what a challenge. What a challenge it must have been to get 13 iwi together to come up with a model of management for some of the most iconic places in Auckland that are well renowned, the names of which the Minister has talked about. What a challenge it has been to assure the broader Auckland community that this is a positive way of looking at how the future of maunga within Auckland can be better managed. What a challenge in terms of identifying a new governance structure and a commercial structure that could represent the collective aspirations of the iwi represented in this settlement, but it has been achieved. Today's third reading is really an opportunity for Parliament to look at the settlement in its totality, the consequences leading to such an approach, but also the opportunities arising from it. And I, for one, only want to mention two things that challenged us at the Select Committee that were somewhat significant. One was regarding water care, no surprise to many. The ongoing thirst of Auckland for meeting the needs of growth, for sustaining the thirsty Auckland, if you like, gets to a sharp point when you talk about the infrastructure and providing water to the city. the type of debate that the Select Committee had around Waraki's ongoing and future requirements was interesting insofar as this settlement was concerned. Were we to absolutely, I guess, embrace the debate that Waraki had, there would have been, I guess, a reverting back to the status quo that Waraki would deal for its future needs and consenting process was with the Auckland City Council. However, we did not go that way. We were assured by the good representation of Paul Majuri, I might add, probably his experience in this space, that there was enough scope within the way in which the authority is intended to operate, that the existing easements and the discussion around how future easements would happen would be able to be achieved under what was proposed in the bill. So we didn't change it. We accepted Waraki had issues, we accepted future demand could be a prospect that might impact on areas covered in this particular settlement, but that's a process, and the process can be covered in the bill. The other thing that challenged us, and this is probably more a broader point of principle, and it came to a sharp point because we've got so many different iwi in this settlement, was place names. And you'll remember a colleague of mine who has since left the House and is now in the Pacific, challenged the thinking of us as Māori members that if we can't name a place or consider that a place has a Māori name, then perhaps we don't have any connection to it. And I accept in part what he was challenging us to do, which was decide on a name. Decide on a name. But you will see, many of the iwi will see that as we pursued information around what were the challenges here, it was different histories and layers of time where there were two names, a couple of names at least, for the same place. We investigated whether or not the New Zealand Geographic Board could have 3 Māori names or 2 Māori names for the same place, all too difficult. So where there was an agreement on one name, that's an easily achievable outcome. Where there were 2 names or so, such as that for Mount Albert or Wairaka, Te Ahi Ka, Arakataura, Mount Roskill, Puke Tāpapa and Puke Wiwi, Mount St John, Te Kōpuke and Titi Kōpuke. Where those types of scenarios existed, there was a process where the New Zealand Geographic Board could gazette 2 Māori names, and it would be on the record, so to speak, but for the official purposes it couldn't be recognised in what we commonly understand as dual naming. So maybe what the settlement has done in this instance is urge us to think through how, going forward, we might better capture what is intended, which is a full telling of the New Zealand story. Auckland City, over time, has been flooded by a number of iwi and a number of histories have come into play and flooded by a number of other people. But that shouldn't prevent the accurate telling of our story and the accurate capturing of our names. So I've taken something from the settlement in a positive way, that if we could do anything, we might in future look at the New Zealand Geographic Board and how it accurately captures the names of our special places. I'm under no shadow of a doubt that with a commitment and an intensity of focus on what is in the best interests of the collective members under the settlement that has been presented to the House today, that good things can happen. Great opportunities are ahead. But the biggest opportunity, Mayor Len Brown, is how do we immerse a way of working through this type of model within the broader issues of Auckland City so that the city as a whole can benefit from the fruits of better engagement with iwi within the Isthmus of Auckland. Nō reira, kia koutou katoa, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou.
The Honourable Christopher Finlinson.
Tamaki Makaurau, Tamaki Heranga Waka.